Introducing the Bite Me Cannabis Club. The Bite Me Cannabis Club aims to be an inclusive online space for cannabis lovers. Whether you're simply curious about how cannabis can improve your life or you're fully seasoned, there's always more to learn. When you join the Bite Me Cannabis Club, you'll have access to like-minded people interested in cannabis, monthly workshops, live Q&As, recipes and recipe swaps, digital cookbooks, a fully functional chat feature, and a whole lot more. For a limited time, it's only $5 a month with a 30-day free trial so you can try it out and see if it's right for you. This isn't just another Facebook group or confusing Discord channel. I carefully chose a platform that offers a clear, uncluttered, and seamless community experience. See for yourself, join today, say hello. I can't wait to connect with you there. Join the Bite Me Cannabis Club today. Link in your podcast app. Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Bite Me. In this week's episode, I sit down with culinary cannabis expert and entrepreneur, Chef Julie Hauser. Welcome to Bite Me, the show about edibles, where I help you take control of your high life. I'm your host and certified Ganjier Marge, and I love helping cooks make safe and effective edibles at home. I'm so glad you're here, and thank you for joining me today. Whether you're new to the show or a long-time listener, you know that I often use olive oil in my cooking and my infusions. When I discovered McAvoy Ranch olive oil, I knew I needed to give them a try, and I love everything about these oils and the company. The oils come from a family-owned farm that is both female-founded and led. They produce these organic olive oils sustainably at their Northern Californian ranch. They've just released an innovative and delicious signature olive oil collection that includes organic blood orange and award-winning chai spice and ginger turmeric. The collection brings together flavors from multiple cultures to create new ways to enjoy olive oil. With this in mind, cards are included with the samples that detail the tasting profiles and ways to use the oils so you can try them with any meal. McAvoy Ranch is committed to creating the highest quality, healthy, bright, and fresh olive oils that will enhance your cooking in delightful ways. Enjoy the unique flavors and well-known health benefits of olive oil by heading over to McAvoyRanch.com and enter promo code BITEME15 at checkout to receive 15% off your order. Welcome back, friends. I'm so glad you're here. If you're just joining for the first time, this is a great episode to start out with. And if you've been listening for a while, thank you so much for supporting the show. I think you're going to love this conversation with Chef Julie Hauser. Her infectious, positive attitude is hard to miss. And not only is she an entrepreneur and a culinary cannabis expert and chef, but she has been an advocate for the plant for a long time. And we touch on all kinds of interesting topics within this episode, including how she goes about sourcing the best quality ingredients when she's making her creations, how she used cannabis in her fight against cancer, and who her cannabis heroes are, just as a few examples. So without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Chef Julie Hauser. All right, everyone. I am really excited to have Chef Julie Hauser on the show today. And this has been a long time coming, actually, this particular interview. But before we get started, and I would love to have you introduce yourself and tell us about your cannabis journey and how it began.
Okay. So happy to be here, Marge. Thanks for having me. I go by Jules. I'm Chef Julie Hauser, founder and CEO of Flower Pharma. I think my cannabis journey began long ago in a remote field. No, okay, a long time ago. I feel like there was two separate journeys, really. You know, I definitely tried it out like we did in my 20s, early 20s, which is later than some people. But I think it took a sabbatical for quite a time. I enjoyed it and had fun in my 20s, but then I kind of didn't enjoy it as often or frequently. And, then came part two. Yeah.
Right. You know what? Yeah. I hear that from a lot of people. My own cannabis journey has been a winding road as well. So it started out in maybe not a random field, but a random car somewhere a long time ago as well.
And then, I've gone through periods of my life where I haven't consumed at all. And, periods of my life where I've consumed probably too much and everything in between. So like you, it's been a bit of a winding road. But when did you first become interested in culinary cannabis?
So I think, for me, kind of culinary and wellness and all of those things go together. And my first sort of really, I've got to bring this into the kitchen and make an ingredient out of it was when I had breast cancer, which is coming up on 12 years now. And I was stage 3C, which is really pretty advanced. I was pregnant with my second son.
Oh, wow.
It was very intense. And of course, the treatments are kind of what's so intense. And so I really needed a way to help myself. I had 2 babies, right? So I needed to find a way to be able to make the side effects a little less horrible. And so I did bring it into the kitchen. I work for pain. I had a lot of pain. I've had 18 surgeries since that.
Wow.
So I've used it for pain. I've used topical, smoking, edible, but everything. But for me as a chef, I always solve problems in the kitchen. So, that was what I did. I went, I'm going to go and figure out a way to just put this into my diet because I'm tired of taking pills. I don't want to do this. I want to do, build something in naturally that makes sense. Yeah.
So as a breast cancer survivor, and I guess at the time a breast cancer patient, what made you think to turn to the kitchen in the first place, and to use cannabis as an ingredient as part of your whole wellness journey?
Yeah, well, so I don't know how to do it any other way. I have to go to the kitchen. That's where I work it out. Right. I definitely saw that there were, at that time, it was a long time ago, and we were just medical, I think, but there were sugary drinks, maybe like the shots or something. And there were edible, there were gummies, and there were chocolates. And that's great. But as a cancer patient, I didn't really want to ingest more sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured I wanted to find a better way. And some of these guys would talk to me about distillate or different, forms that I could build that into my diet. And I talked to everyone about it. And then I just started messing around because I didn't want to eat a bunch of sugar. That was the thing they told you not to eat, because it makes cancer grow. I did not want to make any more cancer grow, So, yeah.
And had you read some research that suggested cannabis was an effective treatment for some of your symptoms? And that's sort of what brought you to the first
yes,
place?
for sure. And everybody, I think a lot of cancer patients, even my doctors at the time were just saying, at least for nausea and this kind of thing. I don't feel like they really, told you what to do or how to use it. But it was I heard, that, that maybe you won't be, you don't have to take another pill for your nausea symptoms. Maybe you could do this, so it's just sort of necessity is the mother of invention, right? You have to just find a way.
Try everything, right? You're not going to not try everything, I guess. So
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, as a chef and the founder of Flower Pharma, you created some unique and delicious cannabis infused recipes. What inspired you to incorporate cannabis as a superfood into your dishes?
Well, I think it's sort of in this process. Like I said, I always do go to the kitchen to kind of work things out. And what I started learning was not only cannabis, but the hemp plant, right? The hemp is and hemp seed oil. Oh my God. It's the most nutritionally dense superfood on earth. And we're not using it.
Yes.
So I kind of was oh my gosh, there's all these other things that we're missing here. And why not something we are enjoying with cannabis? Why can't it have all these other health benefits too? Why does it have to be in candy? Or why does it have to be, right? So, you're thinking about wellness for your body. This was just an extension of that, right?
Right. I'm glad you brought that up too, because I actually read an article recently that was suggesting that you can make 25,000 different products with hemp. And I have also read that, it is one of the most nutritionally dense foods on the entire planet. And if we had suffered prohibition for the last 100 years, where would we be at with, making better use of the hemp plant, like you mentioned?
Right.
But we have to work with what we've got. So, and it's people like you that are that agenda forward, which I'm very happy to support. And do you have any culinary or cannabis heroes?
I would, I say Julia Child, of course. Like, I'm going to go culinary just because, like, I think she was just that woman who made the way in culinary for women. And I think that the culinary world is so much like cannabis, and that there are many men, right, in that field. And in fact, when I was in restaurants and stuff, there weren't very many women chefs, right? So, I mean, that she would be my kind of culinary hero. I really enjoy, Tal Ronan is a vegan chef in LA and has a couple of restaurants, a new one in Las Vegas. And I love what he's up to. I think I'm pretty well aligned with him. In the cannabis industry, I think about that, and I don't want to sound kind of corny, but I mean, what's so amazing about this industry is that people are from all of these other places, and they're bringing in these incredible sets of expertise that you probably would never have heard of or talk to these people. And I love it. And so I feel like we're kind of all heroes in this industry, making this new culture happen, right? And it's such a poetic weave of people and characters and contributors, and so it's really fun to be a part of, right?
Right. And I love that you mentioned Julia Child, because I actually read an autobiography or a biography about her, I think during the pandemic. And there's a show on one of the platforms out there about her. And she really had to push the envelope to get her television show going and her books and everything. Like, she was definitely operating in a man's world, and she didn't have that conventional look and all that. Right. And so she really had to push forward. So that's such a great answer, because she was incredibly talented, obviously.
Oh my God, so talented. And but I bet I love to imagine what it must have been like, and being inside her. I'm sure there were some late arrivals to her cheerleading squad, I mean, and it's just, that's life. But she's amazing. She's amazing.
Yes. Human. Yeah. Now, you do focus on plant-based menus and plant-based cooking. Can you give the listeners some of your tricks for sourcing the best ingredients when you're out at the grocery store, farmers markets, or wherever?
Oh, yes. I think sourcing ingredients is all about intention, right? I mean, I believe that intentionality is probably the number one part of culinary, at least for me. And I think that ingredient selection and choosing all of the lovely things you're going to use are just part of the process. And if it's not, your food's not going to be amazing, right? I mean, it all starts right there. And so, and I don't even think it's that hard. I mean, you go find your people, and I have my farmer people. Are you kidding? Like, I go down to Pike's Place Market every week or every 10 days, and I've got my people. I call them, get this. I'm working on a summer menu. When do the plums, when are the yellow, teardrop plums coming? And I need them to be amazing on this. And so it's, but it's also going and connecting and feeling and touching. And I think that's such a part of the process in cooking. And I mean, that's what you're passing along to other people. And in plant-based, your produce is the art, right? That's everything.
Right. It's the star of the show.
Yeah. Exactly. It is the star.
Right. So it sounds like then the best process is to focus on ingredients as fresh and as ripe as possible.
Yes, 1,000%. And even if you want to make a panzanella salad and you go to the market and the tomatoes look like crap, then you need to regroup. You need to make a new plan and see what looks amazing, and then go from there. So sometimes we can't, have this plant. Like, sometimes we have to be open to changing a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Be able to pivot, I guess.
Yes, pivot.
Now, what was your experience starting your own line of cannabis products? Because that's something, of all the many things that you've been doing, that's something that you've done more recently.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, like because I created this to help my sort of wellness and health. I mean, I have never not seen the path for Ola and for Flower Pharma. It has been clear for the day I started this. And I think that we all do need to kind of come forward and talk about cannabis in a different way. And so this has kind of been my drive behind it. I think that it totally is different. There's not like any other industry. I think if all of us weren't so committed and passionate about it, we would bail because there's some dumb rules, right? There's, we can't do everything we could do in regular business.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that, because I'm very passionate and because no is not an option, that this is just what I'm doing. But you have to have definitely perseverance and, commitment. And I think it's every day. Hi, it's me. Has this happened yet? Hi, it's me. Has this happened yet? Like, that's my job.
Right. So have there been any like particular challenges that you had to overcome in order to get your line of products out?
Yeah, I mean, so here in Washington State, where we launched, right, there's nothing else like Ola. And so I created basically a brand new, they weren't sure quite what to do with me because I created a kind of a brand new thing. But I'll tell you what, Marge, like I read their rules and regulations, I read for every single edible, and then I wrote my recipe. So I knew that they could, I think they took so long. They took so long. So I really do think they were trying every single way to say no. And they couldn't. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm making that up, but like, it took so long. It took like 9 months for me to get a product on the shelves here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it was a cannabis related product, what would the typical timeline be for something like that?
In what? I'm sorry. In a what?
If it wasn't a cannabis related product, what would the typical timeline be for getting a product to market like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can like totally speak as an expert on that, but I think that's extra long, especially when you have all your, maybe 3 to 5 months or something like this.
Right.
Like I literally had everything. The recipe was exact. The labels were exact. I've been working with my partner. We had the cannabis ratios, like everything was done. It was just that approval process, But I think, again, it's just kind of commitment and perseverance. And, I think you stick to anything, you can get there. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that makes sense too, because I mean, the challenge of just that extra long timeline and a difficult approval process, there's a lot of people that would have given up just because they, run out of steam, essentially, whether it's financial, mental, whatever the case might be. So,
yeah.
Now, are there any big wins that you're particularly proud of?
Oh, I'm like definitely proud of getting Ola here in Washington State, Washington. That was, amazing process. I think it's a win every day to do the thing that you love, and you're, now that it's out there selling. And I had a really fun thing happen to me the other day when I went into one of the dispensaries, and I was talking to the guy, and he started telling me this like long thing he made with Ola, and then I, macerated the peaches and the, toast Ola, and then I did this, and it was so fun for me to just hear what their people are doing with it, right? So I think that's a win. That's so fun.
100%. When you're hearing it like a customer who's out there who's using your product from maybe in ways you never even expected it to be used, I imagine that's going to feel very rewarding. So
it does. So cool.
Now you have several flavors for your Ola oils. How did you choose the flavors that went into these oils?
I think a lot of it is just a couple of things, right? They're all hemp seed oil blends. I wanted the hemp seed oil to be in everything, like we talked about. And the flavors then sort of each one highlights a different oil, right? So toast, for example, is a walnut oil and it has vanilla bean. And so I just kind of found my beautiful base oil, and then I considered maybe terpenes, like the orange cardamom. I really considered terpenes. I love terpinolene, and I love that occurring in flower. And so I think that flavor really came from that. I think either how flavors occur in nature or what I would find would go with the most recipes. I think we have a flavor that goes with anything you would want to make.
Right.
Yeah.
So just to make them as versatile and as useful as possible.
Yes.
I love that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that they're obviously designed to be paired with meals. Can you give us some examples of how you would use your oils in your cooking?
Oh, sure. So we did just recently, I released my most recent flavor is Ola Olive, which is made from a first press olive oil. Actually, I have to say this, I'm so excited about it. It's made from an olive oil from Greece. It's this little tiny village, and not to be able to say the name, but it's a little tiny village, and it's single sourced from the same village every single year. It's award winning. And this is the olive oil we're featuring in our next olive oil. It's so good. I'm so excited. It's like literally being mixed and batched and it'll be out next week. And it's so good. So that being said, I love this on Mediterranean food. I have a separate kind of Italian project I'll tell you that I'm working on. And so the Ola olive goes really well with all of those flavors. So Tuscan white bean soup. I love that. I love to drizzle Ola olive on top of that. Anywhere you would use a good olive oil, right? The hemp seed flavors aren't too dominant that you can't just apply it like you would an extra olive oil. I don't want people to get, afraid of that. Yeah.
Right. They're very simple to use because I have tried some of them and I find that they're so useful. It's just really lovely to have them in your cupboard and you can infuse all kinds of things with them. So, and
what's your favorite?
I do like the olive oil one. And in particular, I think it's the ginger sesame.
Mm-hmm.
Ginger sesame. Yeah, I really enjoy that one too because the flavors are just lovely and they pair so well with a lot of different things. So, yeah.
Everybody loves that one. That one here in Washington won Best Alternative Edible by Oregon Northwest Leaf.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. And it's cool because so if you're getting it in dispensaries, the THC version, that one actually has THC, CBD, and CBG. So It actually has all three. And I agree with you. I do love that one. And so it has a lot of loyal followers, that guy.
Right. And so do the certain oils pair best with certain types of cuisines, or is it just, people can use them however they want, but.
They can, but I think I guess I try to lend it that they can do that, but I think everything sort of goes with, all of the above. And I think we're really good at putting oil on things here in the United States. So it's, it's a good way. And I think there are places that you don't even think about, right? Like I love the orange cardamom on my green juice in the morning.
Oh, nice.
That's super good. And you don't think about that necessarily, right? And it's interesting on a drink because it floats and then you kind of sip it through the top and then so you get this layer of flavors. Yeah.
Right.
Kind of fun.
I never even thought of trying that, but I will have to try that because I do tend to drink a lot of green juices as well.
Yes.
So I will
try it
that.
and tell me what you think. Yeah.
Yeah, I will because I can see how if it floats on the top, you get that first taste and then it's going to pair with the rest of the juice that you're drinking.
It's nice.
I like that.
Yeah. And you can do mocktails too. So we'll do that. We'll like shake it up with I made like a ginger. I think I did use the Bright for that too. It was a grapefruit ginger mocktail with the Bright, and it's fun.
That's cool. And so many people are becoming more interested in mocktails because I just find people are drinking less.
I think
generally speaking. I think they're turning to cannabis instead as a hangover-free alternative. And
exactly.
I'm jumping on board.
Or can of cocktail, right? I guess you'd say can of cocktails. It's not. But I much rather have a can of cocktail than a cocktail these days. I feel so much better. Yeah.
Oh, and I find personally like I'm getting to a point in my life where if I have anything more than 2 drinks after a certain period in the evening, then I'm going to feel not good the next day or it's going to disrupt my sleep and all kinds of things. So why? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
You have cannabis. You can use it in so many creative ways as we're talking about right here. But
exactly.
Now, Flower Pharma, you have partnered with Skagit Organics, and they're a leader in the cannabis industry that creates Washington's only medical grade compliant full extract cannabis oil. That's a mouthful.
I know, that's a lot of words.
Can you tell us a bit more about that partnership and how it contributes to the quality of your products?
Oh yeah, those guys. I love those guys at Skagit. It's actually very cool. They made the first distillate that I used, in the kitchen for sleep. I had like a lot of issues with sleep along the way, and that was probably the last thing I created that was the first Ola that really drove me to creating this project, both of those things. But anyway, I approached them and said, I love your distillate. I love what you're doing. I mean, I literally made the first Ola with it, right? And I mean, I just pitched them. I made a deck. I did the whole pitch. I had, some investors, equity partners, and kind of told them what I wanted to do. And they were really open to it and flexible. And he's been great. It's a new product. So I think it's people aren't always like super excited about a new product. But I mean, the new product, that's the way, right? I mean, that's how we create new things. That's how new things start. I mean, we have to give them a shot, right? So I think people are having fun with it. I really do. Yeah, right. And these guys have been great. Yeah.
That's really great to hear, and I like to see that it's full extract cannabis oil as well, yes. Which is I feel like always gives a person a more robust experience afterwards versus using distillates. So
it does, yeah, yes. Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah, and you can tell, right? You can tell in the quality of the product. I feel like, yeah,
yes, and sometimes distillate leaves that bit of an aftertaste. I find, depending on what it's in, doesn't always lend itself well to the overall experience, I guess.
Yes, that's true. It's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I really like, if you go onto your website, the Flower Pharma website, I believe it is, you have like whole multi-course meals that you put there, and you'll show how you compare them with the oils as well. So if people want to get creative, they can try it out for themselves. Is this how you approach an infused dining event yourself? Like you would provide people with the oils versus infusing the whole meal, because you see them both ways often.
Yes, I do it that way. That is my approach. For me, I feel like sometimes we have one chance with people in cannabis, right? And I really want people to come back a second time. Like I want them to be I want to be the reason they're trying it for the first time, but then I want to be the reason they're coming back for the second time because so I think once again the intention, right, is key here. And I also think that it doesn't take very much per course, and especially when you're doing many courses. So I will have a little, cup, a little servings that people can dose themselves. I often recommend, I'll serve like 2.5 to 5 milligrams for each course, and then people can kind of use it how they like, or they might share it with someone, and what's important here is I think we all need to learn our dose. I mean, right? I did have someone tell me once, I was drinking a can of beverage, right? It's some thing. And I said, oh, do you want to drink one of these? And he said, oh, well, I know how many of these I can have. And it's cocktail. I know how many tequilas I can have. I don't know how many of those I can have. Well, I think we need to find out. And so then we know, right? And so I think it's a good process for people to physically go through and realize how much they're getting, kind of have intentionality, realize when you're, where you're at. That's my thought behind it. Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting that you mentioned that somebody who is drinking an alcoholic beverage is like, I know how many of these I can have before I'm at my limit. But people are still very much discovering where that is for infused foods or beverages, because we just don't know a lot of the times. So it is a bit of trial and error, but it's fun trial and error. So
it is. And I love, it's opportunity, it's education. And so I think, these small baby steps in those kind of increments, then you kind of learn your happy place. Right.
And what goes into putting on an infused event, like a dinner or an event that you're pulling off?
A lot of things. Yeah, so many things. So I did a brunch I guess maybe a month ago now in New York. And we're coming up on a dinner in Orange County in June here. And it's, I do travel with them. So there's a little bit more involved than there would be if you were, doing your own thing. But I did design Ola so people could even do dinner parties at home, right? We're kind of reinventing the dinner party with cannabis. Like it's let's figure out how this works in the picture, right? So it's planning, and as I mentioned before, I like to feature cannabis as an ingredient. I don't think it needs to be in every course. Every course doesn't have to have THC. It's so the plant, I might use some CBG at the beginning and just stimulate the appetite. My last course dessert is always just straight CBD to just try to get everybody sort of level, So I think that it's planning, it's intention, and then sort of what makes sense in each dish, right? It doesn't have to be in everything. You wouldn't put oregano in every dish, right? So it doesn't need to be.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I love that. It sounds like, and this seems to be a recurring theme that's coming up, is intentionality. Like you've mentioned that word numerous times. And so you're just being intentional about how you're using cannabis as an ingredient in whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's for your own health purposes, putting on an infused dinner, sharing it with friends. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we all, I don't know, I strive to be, right? I think that's partly why I'm successful in things, right? And I feel like we're all here because we do really like to connect over this plant, and we have this sense of community. And I think that's part of intentionality, right? And that'll stick with people. You become memorable. The experiences become memorable when they're created with intention. Right. And then we want more. Right.
Well, and I like that too, because I feel like I've been hearing more and more people talking about intentionality a little bit lately. And maybe it's a bit of the pushback from the cannabis bro kind of, get as high as you can and smoke the biggest joint, like just, balls to the wall kind of thing. And I think a lot of people resonate more with the intentional side of cannabis use. And there's something in cannabis for everybody.
So. Oh, for sure. For sure. The intention. I agree with you. Yeah.
Speaking to a lot of people, especially the canna curious or people who aren't as familiar with the plant and are maybe just discovering it for the first time. Yeah.
And I like that. We need to meet them, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of my listeners, they're making infusions at home. They're using those to, make their own baked goods or dishes. Do you have a top tip for home cooks who are making their own edibles at home?
Well, I think I do like to encourage this idea of maybe having a separate thing to dose, right? So obviously if you can't get Ola, like maybe you're making your own canna butter or your own, and I think or coconut oil, whatever you're going to do, I think, and I know you have, savvy listeners who do that, but I think it's nice to have this separate, okay, this is the infused thing, and now I'm making pancakes, and I might use this infused thing on my pancakes, but I think it keeps us like aware, and then you're able to kind of dose, and how you like, and then you might have more later. It's also to, you can have a backup. I think that's, I don't know, it's one approach instead of making like a whole like thing of brownies like we used to, right? But I think so. I think maybe that's a tip. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. You're saying instead of like necessarily dosing a whole dish, you find ways to sort of add to it after with your infusion, like the butter on the pancakes or the bit of oil in your tea, or the, infusing the sauce instead of the whole dish. Yeah, I do that too. Because I also find when you use that approach, depending on who's in your household, I have people in my household that aren't partaking with me. And if I infuse the whole thing, then they can't eat it. And this way it allows you to tailor the dose also to people who have different tolerances as well.
Exactly. 1,000%. Yes. And also like getting into the wrong hands or something too, right? Yeah, like you're saying, like it's good for a lot of, and some people, like you said, everybody has a different tolerance. So some people may want, 50 milligrams.
Right. And then somebody's want 5. Yeah, that's a pretty big discrepancy too. So
I know, right?
Do you have any, I can't live without kitchen gadgets?
I can't live without. I'll tell you what I love. I probably could live without it, but I don't know. I love having my immersion blender because, because It just because it's a hand, plug it in, it's just a little hand. And it's like, you don't need the whole food processor. You don't need the whole blender. I love making soup, especially as a plant-based chef. You make a lot of leftover soups, right? And then you just like, it suddenly becomes fancy when run the immersion blender through there. It's so easy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer, actually, because I have one of those, but I never would have thought of it. But you're right. Sometimes you just don't want to dirty the whole blender. And then it's the extra step of pouring the soup into the blender and all that stuff where you can just like do it in the one pot. I mean, that speaks to me. So
bust it out. You will be so happy.
Yes, exactly. And do you have any kitchen gadgets that are more specifically related to edibles that you like to use?
I don't, but I keep it really simple. I'm sort of old fashioned, maybe in that way, but double boilers.
Honestly, that is such a useful tool, like any kind of double boiler setup. And I love that you said that too, because it just goes to show that you can make really great edibles and you don't have to have anything fancy to do it.
No.
Yes. I mean, they're fun to have sometimes, but you definitely can do it with whatever you have on hand already. So
you can. I'm a minimalist in the kitchen too. Like if it's not really like super useful, I don't have a lot of gadgets. I don't like gadgets. That's why I was kind of like, but immersion blender is one thing, but it's like if something's just for melon, or the melon baller say for something, you
end up like cluttering up your whole kitchen with gadgets and tools and things. You're like, I've used this 3 times a year maybe. And just more stuff to look after, take care of. But now, aside from your culinary career, you are a dedicated yogi, a meditator, dancer, painter. How do these passions influence your creativity in the kitchen?
So I definitely do all these things. It's so fun, like yogi, because I do yoga, I guess. But all of these things. So basically, these are all the things I do, right, to make me successful at my job, I think, right? So I do a dance every single morning, okay, like every single morning. I have my little morning ritual, and I meditate every morning. I have my coffee with my husband, and then I do a dance while I'm getting ready. So 2 songs, because we all have 2 songs that we can get, hyped up. And then I'm so ready for my meeting, right? I'm ready for whatever I'm doing. It just puts you into that space. And you ask how that contributes to the kitchen. And I have so many people tell me they hate to cook, like all the time, right? They hate to cook. And I think it's because we don't make that our space. Like you got to make that your zone, and I'm sure you do this because you love to cook, right? But you have to be, I have my music, you might have to dance a little in there. You kind of got to say there's the word again, intention, but I am intentionally in this space. I am focusing on what I'm doing in this moment. It's not that I have to get this out of the way. Right.
Right.
And so I think all those other things bring me that focus in the kitchen.
Right. They would contribute to that in more than one way, I'm sure. Because I'm a daily meditator myself, and I do practice yoga I haven't been as consistent lately, but certainly it does cultivate that feeling of intention in other areas of your life too. So, and I love the idea of like having 2 songs in the morning that you dance to. It gets you like in that positive frame of mind to take on the day. And what a great way to start the morning. I love that.
You have to try it. It just changes your outlook. Great.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how do you incorporate cannabis into your everyday life?
Yeah, so I do like to talk about this. I mean, we're talking about intentionality and balance and all of these things. We're talking about finding your dose, right? For me, I've had quite a healthcare journey. It's probably like 2 shows worth we can do, but I've had a lot. And so what I've learned to do in my life is to use cannabis where I used medicine before, right? And so like I said, they used to have me on really high doses of Valium to sleep. And that's why I decided to create Ola, because it was really toxic and it did horrible things. So I found a way to build this. I sleep every night for 5 years. I haven't had a sleepless night, right? And I used to, like, always. I used to frequently. And so I started to say, oh, well, maybe I could use this for anxiety, and maybe I could use this for focus. I used to take Adderall, right? And so it's intentionality again, right? But learning where and how much makes sense. And it's just maybe a little bit of a certain kind that makes me focused, right? And I think you have to, meditation helps, yoga helps, right? You have to, the mind-body connection will definitely steer you in the right direction. But so I do use it daily throughout, and it helps me so much. And I don't take a lot of medicine. It's not, I don't take any medicine anymore. I don't take any medications, right? As well as supplements. But I think that I'm not saying it's right for everyone. I think you just have to find your path with it and what makes sense, right?
Right. And this is where I had a lot of people suggest, and I suggest it too a lot of the times when you're making edibles in particular, is to track your progress, especially if you're new to it, and sort of, see what helps when the best. And that way you can really figure out how it's best going to support you in whatever it is that person's doing every day. So
yes.
Now, is there anything that you have changed your mind about in the last few years?
Oh yeah, I saw this one. I know. I don't know. Well, you know what? I feel like just being an entrepreneur and giving birth to this company, and I feel like I've always been fairly successful in business and worked hard and those things, but probably if somebody told me I was going to do this 5 years ago, I wouldn't, I wouldn't believe it. So, so I think that's kind of cool.
Well, that makes sense. What I'm hearing you say is that you've changed your mind about what you can accomplish in a given period of time. Honestly, it's sometimes it is amazing. What's that saying? They say we always overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in 5 years.
Yes.
And, you always have this huge to-do list every day. And if you don't meet it, you get really discouraged. But over time, if you keep at it, you never know where things will take you. So is there anything that would surprise people about you?
Oh, yes. So I think, it's so funny. I think everybody has sort of their decisions they make about you. I don't know. I pretty much told you everything, though, so there aren't a lot of secrets. Right. I like all kinds of music. I like jazz. We'll use that one. I do like jazz. Maybe I don't look like a jazz listener, but I also like punk. So punk's my number one. So I don't know. I think there's an
eclectic. So when you're dancing in the morning, are you listening to punk or jazz or something completely different?
Definitely punk. Yeah. Awesome. Maybe you'll have a little rock roll sprinkled in there. Yeah. Right.
Punk. I love that. That would surprise me. I would never guess you to be a punk fan, but do you have a favorite band?
There you go. I always say the Ramones, probably the Ramones. I sure love the Pogues too, though, because then they get my Irish punk and I get both those things, which is nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, finally, do you have any upcoming projects or plans that you're excited about?
I'm excited about so many things. We have a lot of cool stuff going on, but I will tell you that Ola's going to be in New York City soon. We have a partner there. Yes. So we're excited about that. Summer. Yes.
And so is it available in Washington State right now?
Yeah. So THC is available in Washington State. We'll be New York City. I have a couple other irons in the fire, but our hemp line, our CBD line is available nationally. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Because I'll create some show notes and I can point everybody where to find it.
Thank you.
If there's, where can people find you online? Actually, that's a great question as well.
Yeah. So they can find me two places, theflowerchef.co. That is my personal website. It also has a recipe blog, tells you where I'm at, where my events are, what's coming up. Sometimes ticket sales are on there. And there's some on there now for June. And then flowerpharma.com. Has all of our Olas, everything about them, the menus that you suggested, recipes that go along with it. Yeah, our partners are on there. Yeah.
Yes. And are you most active on Instagram, probably?
Probably so. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's where I see you most, but that's probably because that's also where I'm at. But I'll be sure to link that in the show notes so people can find you. And I just want to say thank you so much for spending your time with me today. It was really nice chatting with you.
Thank you. It was so much fun. Yes. Thanks for having me, Marge. Delight.
That was a fun conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and that you learned something new and maybe you're inspired to try something different in the kitchen. If you haven't already heard them, check out the seasonal asparagus and fennel soup episode and the best citrus olive oil cake episode as well. Those recipes were both provided by Chef Julie Hauser. I'll link to those in the show notes along with everything else we talked about today, and I do encourage you to check her out online and look into her Ola oils as well. If you know somebody who would enjoy this episode, please share. Sharing is caring and help makes the show a little more discoverable. And as always, my friends, until next time, stay high. Are you tired of trying edibles that are inconsistent in strength and flavor? Attempting to figure out your tolerance? Do you want to take control of your edibles experience and find the optimum combination of factors that results in the best outcome? If so, this edibles journal is perfect for you. The Bite Me Edibles Journal provides a convenient and organized way for you to track and record your edibles experience, whether it's homemade edibles or store-bought. It includes 48 fillable pages. It's sized 8.5 by 11 for plenty of writing space, includes information on calculating the potency of homemade edibles, and it was created by an edibles expert. Whether you're a seasoned edibles enthusiast or just starting out on your cannabis journey, the Bite Me Edibles Journal is an essential tool for anyone interested in enjoying their edibles to the fullest. Take control of your high life with this convenient and helpful resource. Add it to your Amazon cart today. Tap the link in the show notes.